Hey, welcome back to the channel. What we have behind me is our 1955 F100 project, which belongs to my wife. We've already got the bed off this truck. Now what we're doing with this, we're going to be sitting this down on a 66 chassis that we have, the Mountaineer. It's actually a Mountaineer chassis. But in our previous videos, you saw the 1966 that I have, which is going to be going on our chassis, which we're building in here. What we're doing on this, getting this thing unbuttoned from the frame, getting the bed off, and we're going to be sitting this down on that Mountaineer chassis that our 66 is on, and getting this thing going down the highway, trying to get it ready for a fall car show at the end of this month. So now let's go ahead, we're going to dive right in. Okay, rather than using that Mountaineer chassis that's under my 66, I had this 98 Ranger, which was originally going to be the project for that 55. Me and my wife was talking about it, and we decided we're just going to go ahead and use this. So this right here is a 98 Ford Ranger, has a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder 5-speed transmission. It has plenty of power and torque to pull a trailer or just to get it down the road, take it to a few shows and have some fun. So I'm going to start tearing this down, take the doors off, we'll go unbutton everything and get this cab off, and then we'll start showing the video of this frame and exactly what we're going to do to get that 55 mounted on this Ranger chassis. Now another thing, if you notice a 55, the front wheel is actually set a little bit further back in the fender. It doesn't really look appealing from the factory. Well, the Ford Ranger frame actually sets that wheel center to the front and center to the rear fender. So this right here is going to be one cool truck when we get it done. Now the cab's off, I'm going to get the frame, clean the frame up a little bit, shoot some black paint on the frame, and get our engine or body mounts cut off from the old body so we can modify new ones for the 55 body. But for now, I'll roll the frame out of the way, get that cab up here, start getting the dash out. Well, I've already got the cab off. I couldn't do a video of me pulling the cab. One thing, I had some issues with my camera gear. But now that the cab's off, what I'm going to be doing is this dash panel right here. I'm not going to leave this dash panel in it. I'm going to do the same kind of swap that my 66 has, which is the Mountaineer dash. So what I'm going to do, I have a actual dash that I can use for fitment. Here's our mock-up dash out of a 2001 Ford Ranger. It's the same as a Mountaineer, same as other Rangers as well, from 98 all the way to 2010. This dash, just by sitting this mock-up section in there, I can see that it goes all the way from the A-pillar to A-pillar on both sides. So I know I'm going to make my cut from the A-pillar straight down and along the front of that dash pad, pull that pad out, start making the brackets to get this style dash in this cab. Now I know by putting my other dash in here just to set it up to check it that I'm going from A-pillar to A-pillar. Side to side perfect, the length to the width of this truck right here. So with my cutoff wheel, I'm going to go from the A-pillar straight down and I'm going to cut all this dash section out. It's all out. Now I've got to figure out something with my windshield wipers. On these old 55s, they used a vacuum to make it go back and forth. This time we're going to be using electronics. So rather than just going back and forth, it's going to have to spin all the way around to actuate the wipers. That's going to be the next part of the project. I've got the truck cab, which we showed you earlier in tearing it down. I've got it all stripped down. The dash is cut out, it's all cleaned out inside. I've got it sitting on top of our 98 Ford Ranger frame, which you may have saw in some of my previous videos. Once you've got the cab sitting on the frame, you can see exactly how much you may need to cut out of your transmission tunnel for it to clear your transmission. Also, you can see exactly where you need to weld your cab mounts to your frame. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut those cab frame mounts off the other frame that was original to 55, and I'm going to screw them into place. After measuring, see how much I need to cut off, I'll weld them to the side of the Ranger frame. And on the back, I'll use those original links and weld them to the side of the frame. Get our frame level with the cab on the bottom, make sure the cab's straight, make sure it's exactly the distance from the front wheel that it needs to be, and then we'll get those mounts welded in. Then our cab will be in place, and it'll be time to start working on that firewall and getting that wiring harness all situated for the airbox and steering column. Alright, I got the fender right here off one of my other vehicles as a spare because I wanted to leave the original front end all together on this truck. Now I cut the original cab mounts off for the Ford Ranger frame. I put the fender on here just because I wanted to get a center on where the wheel would sit. I also set the bed on there so that I can make sure it was correct before I do any welding or any cab mount stand. Now I cut these off the original frame. Now on a Ford Ranger, if you just bevel this hole out a little further, then this right here will bolt right up and you can weld it straight to your Ranger frame. One thing I had to do, I had to cut the firewall a little bit up so it could clear the transmission. But as for clearance under the hood, there's plenty of clearance under the hood. Alright, this is showing that I've got the cab on. I've just got it held on right now. I actually used the C-channel and welded on top of the frame because I wanted to space it out a little larger. So on a Ranger frame, the back of the frame actually starts to go up. I've cut the original mounts off the back and I actually moved them forward right here. Where the Ranger frame raises up in the back, I actually used this right here, this little bit thicker plate, and I actually cut it here. I got my hose for the original seat. That's the cab mount now, and in the back to support the rear that was rusted, I put a piece of 1x and welded in this section and to the back of the cab. And now for the front, the dash is finally in. You can see exactly, it fits perfectly tight against the front. I cut a little piece of steel here and welded that little nut from the original Ranger dash on there and just boogered it up right there to hold it into place. And right up there, I'll make another mount on each side for that section of the dash. Of course, your computer go right there in the original spot. Walk around here. Them will go above your fender support right there. And on this side, there's that clamp out of the way. I cut a piece of metal that would fit the contour of the cab, and on the back side of that, I welded the original Ranger nuts. And up there, where it mounts up there, I'm going to actually build a bracket and just weld it to the cowl panel for that section right up there. And that right there is the dash inside this truck. It's the bed. It's pushed back a little bit, but right there it is. I got to lower it down. But that is it. It is sitting in. It's bolted up. It fits really, really nice in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and make those pieces for the front, and after that I've got plenty of room in there. I'm going to modify a bracket to the original Ranger. Rather than mounting it on the outside, I'm going to mount it up here on the inside of the firewall to power the wipers rather than using this old style. But that's what I've got done so far to it. And there it is, the rear, where it sits up high like that in the rear. I'll do an axle flip kit and relocate that rear end on top of the leaves to get that down. And these are just some wheels I stuck on there just to roll it around. I got new cab corners coming. I got new rockers, new door bottoms. So that's that much of the process on that. I used this piece right here that was tacked on to the original Ranger firewall to put it in the F100 so that I had exactly how I needed to do on my holes for the lineup. You have to cut these horns off on the front because the original rare support mounted here in the center with 2 bolts. So I'll be making a bracket here for that later. Now on this section, it will need a support like an L channel from there, welded all the way to the other side to support this. But I've cut my slot for my wiring harness. I've also used the booster off the Ranger and the steering. Go around to this other side and you can see for that dash to work with your air box there, these line up under your dash to your vent, so that you got your defrost and your standard vent, and it also bolts up to your firewall. Well, the problem I had, my firewall was 2 inches from where it needed to be, so I just simply cut this out of the Ranger and then made these little plates here to box it in. I still got some welding to do. Still got to put my computer also in the dash there. You can see how well that dash contours to the truck. And I made these little plates for it to bolt to, of course. Now I've welded this in, I cut it down so that this will kind of make a rake into the floor. I'm going to finish welding all the patches for this, and it clears my transmission. I also made that bracket right there to space out my accelerator pedal. And there's where I had to extend the steering shaft. And then of course my clutch and wire harness. Now on the back, I'll show you this. This right here, the reason why I made that rise up again, the frame actually goes up right at this section. So I also used this 10 gauge to use it for the mounts, which they're not fully tacked in yet, but I moved them from the Ranger. And up here, I just used some L channel welded on the top of the frame. I'll also be putting the brace from right there up to the channel. Now I've got the rear end loose right now because I'm going to be flipping it on top of the leaf springs. I'll be using these right here to flip them. As for the filler neck, I will put it inside the bed facing up and build a little box for that. I've got new rockers. I'm going to be putting new rockers in, new cap corners. I'm going to be fixing all that and then patinaing it. And as for all the inside here, it's all going to be painted up brand new. This dash is not the dash that's going in it. This is just one that I can cut up and fit. It's going to be painted with this new color. The dash as well. So all of the interior is going to be brand new. All the color is going to be new, but on the outside, I'm not going to be using this color. I'm going to keep this rustic patina. So here's a spot I cleaned on the original fender on the rear of the bed section. This is the paint that I picked up from Nason, the original color. And this is Sea Sprite Green for this. It's Sea Sprite Green 349. Got that mixed up at O'Reilly's. Here on the bed, I put the bed on the chassis. I leveled the bed up with the floor pan and a leveler on the top. And then here, I used 1-inch square tubing. First, I made my perimeter all the way around the bed. And on the inside, I made these plates, which I've got to cut the backside. I sat those on the original mounts for the Ranger chassis, just 4 points. And then made my sections in the center and however long piece I needed to raise or lower the bed floor and welded those in. All these are tacked in, and these will be used for my bed wood kit and bolting all the wood all along there with the strips. I'm going to leave this right here exactly like it is and clear coat over this. There's the wheel that'll be going on the truck right there. That's just kind of sitting up there. That is a 17x8 there. All right, well, that's what the progress is on this 1955 on a 98 2001 year model Ford Ranger frame with a 2.5 and 5-speed. Here's the bed behind me. I got some more work to do. I got to finish doing my welds and get in there and finish doing all the welds on the cab. But until then, I'm gonna get some more videos made of my progress on this truck. Keep watching. If you have any questions, don't forget to comment. If you want me to do a video of a certain thing that I've done on the truck that maybe you have questions with, hit a comment button there and then go ahead and leave me one. But until then, guys, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.